Today I'm going to be talking about the formatting, the ABA formatting for your research essay, and about some structuring things, about how to do in-text and parenthetical citations, and then what the overall works cited and cover page and everything looks like. We've already kind of gone over the cover page and the works cited, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on those today. But I did want to give you some tips for structuring your research essay. So your paper requirements are between 4 and 5 pages of content. And then you will have on top of that, you would have your cover page and then your references page, which will make everybody should fall within like 7 to 8 total pages of content. You may have less than that, you may have 6, but it should be roughly about 4. I really had a hard time kind of reining mine in. Right now it's at 7 pages, and I'm still not 100% finished with it. I struggle just like you do. I'm having a hard time writing my conclusion, and so I've kind of come back. I left it and come back to it a couple of times or whatever. So we know that our first page is going to be our cover page. We're just use that same page that you use for your annotated bib, and just take that annotated bibliography byline off of it and just use the title of your page. Remember your spacing. Remember your running header up in the top right hand corner. Remember in APA, it's just your page number. Make sure that you insert those so that they format correctly and that you don't have the same number on all pages. Then you have your 5 lines of student information. It's about 4 lines down from that. Remember, the only thing that should be bold on that title page is your title itself. That everything else should be your standard font in 12 point, whatever it is that you choose. We talked about, Times New Roman is just very versatile, like to use, and it's safe. You've used it before, so that kind of thing. Okay, so when you're finished with your cover page, your essay starts on the top of the next page. So directly underneath your header should be your first paragraph. Now, your introduction does not need a section header. Um, it should just start indented as your first paragraph. You'll introduce your topic, and remember that my topic was why you should give Korean dramas a chance. And so I just went into a little bit of introduction before I started kind of defining what my terms were for this paper. So I said the recent popularity of Netflix shows like Squid Game and All of Us Are Dead, and the rising global domination of K-pop sensation BTS have placed South Korean culture and entertainment on everyone's radar. Korean television dramas, also known as K-dramas, have already garnered immense popularity in Asian and European countries, and are rapidly drawing the attention of Americans. The bandwagon is moving, so do not miss out. The accessibility, diversity, and relatability of Korean dramas are just a few of the reasons why you should add them to your watch list. That last sentence is functioning as my thesis statement. I know that I'm going to talk about those 3 factors in persuading my audience um, why they should give Korean dramas a chance. And so I decided that what I needed to do, especially, was to kind of define some unfamiliar terms and the concepts of those terms for my readers. So I did a section on definitions and a section on characteristics. And you'll notice that when I do a subsection, that I bold it and I move it all the way to the left so that my indentation can fall underneath that, and everything looks correct. So I did a section on definitions, and I really just defined what Hallyu is and what Korean drama actually the terminology, what it means. And then I did a section on characteristics. I talked about the features. I talked about the genres, the storylines, original soundtracks. I talked about the fact that they balance predictability and originality, and the storylines and that kind of thing. Um, and then I decided that I wanted to add a little bit of textual evidence into that section because I found a section on the Korean twist, because the kind of genres that they fall under are all very familiar, but they do have a Korean twist, and I thought that fit really well there in characteristics. Okay, all right. So then comes my 3 points that I outlined in my thesis, which were accessibility, diversity, and relatability. And the other thing I want to point out before I forget is that in the persuasive essay, I'm going to allow you to use you this time. I want you to avoid kind of I. I believe, I think, I feel they're all kind of weak language. And so I want you to avoid those, but I will allow you to use you. Just be mindful of your usage of it, that you're not using it excessively like you, especially multiple times in the same paragraph, in the same sentence, that kind of thing. So use it, but use it sparingly, only when something else won't work, like you have to use it, okay? All right. So my sections that follow after my definitions and characteristics are my three reasons: accessibility, um, diversity, and then I have a paragraph on relatability. And you'll notice, and I left this here for a reason because I want to show you that in just a second. So let's take a look at those three. So I, I'm all about balance. I think that your sections, you should never write more of one than the other, so that when you're looking at your paper from a distance, it's um, but with an essay like this, you may find yourself writing a little bit more for a different section, but it should still be evenly addressed. So you'll notice that, and I still have some tweaking and stuff to do. Right now, I have two paragraphs for diversity, and I only have one for relatability and one for accessibility. So I either need to kind of go in and see what I can remove. Maybe I'm being too wordy in my diversity section. Maybe I can streamline some stuff down. Maybe I've repeated myself and I need to kind of, and that's just being mindful of your economy. That's a great writing skill. It's a skill that good writers practice. Beware of your economy. If you're seeing that one of your sections is really small, you either needed to choose a different content because you couldn't find enough for it to fill it out, or you need to add more, you need to research more. What's so I need to go in right now. I know I need to go in and take a look at my diversity section and see what I can pull out to make that kind of that balance back out. And then take a look at those other two paragraphs and make sure there's nothing that I've left out that I could add in. Okay. And then the other thing is when you never want, this is called widowing. It's when your section header doesn't join with the paragraph that it relates to. And sometimes that can happen and you don't even really realize it. Or sometimes when you save it, you move it to Canvas, you notice that it's messed up your formatting and it'll make a section header jump up to the next one. You always want to avoid that. So what happens if you get down to the bottom of your page and you only have like one space left and you don't want to really start a paragraph? It's okay to go ahead and just kind of shift it down so that it hits that next page. Now, if there's a huge gap, you need to bring everything back up. If I had more space here, I would move that section back up so that it would be partially on that page. But if it's on the last line and my section header just kind of widowed away from my paragraph, then I can use the enter button one time and move it down. Okay. All right. The last like section that I did and that I used subsections for, subsection headers, was recommendations. This is my personal recommendation, but I didn't say I in any of it. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. So I did recommendations. You can do a recommendation for your paper depending on your topic, that final push for um, whatever, if you're wanting them to join a cause, if you're wanting them to adopt a belief, if you're wanting them to take a course of action, that kind of thing. Or you can save that for your conclusion. You can choose how you structure it. It's your paper. But, if you feel like there's a section that needs to be included before your conclusion to kind of tie everything together before you conclude your paper out, then you can do that. And so I decided that since I'm talking about Korean dramas, that I would recommend some that for different genres, just to kind of tell, I want people to watch them, so let me give you some here to start with. But I didn't use the word I at all. Okay, I said they offer something for everyone, and I talked about action, I talked about horror and suspense, all the different genres, and then my favorites without saying these are my favorites. Okay, and then you'll notice that my conclusion is only a sentence and a partial sentence right now. I'm still working on that. I think it's good to y'all for y'all to see that y'all aren't the only ones that struggle when you're writing. I've left this and come back to it multiple times. Obviously, by the time it's on your canvas, it will be a complete paragraph and everything will be all together and all that good stuff. So anyway, I struggle too. Remember that your last page will be your references page. Remember, we say references for APA and not works cited. It's bolded. It's at the center. It starts at the very top, and your references start directly underneath. And so you've already done this legwork, right? I decided to use all 5 of my sources. I'm only looking for 3 on your research essay, but you may end up using more. But the good news is that you've already done that legwork. You've already pulled all those things together. So you just go back over to your annotated bib. You can copy your citation. You can drop it in, paste without formatting. It will drop it in exactly like it's on your annotated bib, and it'll be correct there for you on your works cited page, your references page. Okay. All right. The last thing that I want to talk about before I end the screencast is how do you do in-text citations and parenthetical citations when you're working with APA format. So I want to just kind of go back up to where started inserting. I started inserting text. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can do that. And you can vary them up so that you're not using the same format every single time. Okay, so first you have an in-text citation, which means that you're dropping into the sentence that you are writing, as opposed to saving it for the end and putting it on your at the end. Now you're like, well, Miss Lloyd, you counted off several times because I have interrupted my flow. That's not exactly what I mean. Take a look at this sentence right here. I said, while their story arcs can often be predictable, such as rags to riches stories, rich boy meets poor girl, or vice versa, children defying the wishes of their parents and creating a life for themselves, etc., Melissa DeWitt of Stanford News points out that they have a Korean twist, yada, 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 right? So I dropped in my author's name. I dropped in the source, which was the Stanford News. I put the date in, and it's part of my sentence. It's not disrupting the flow of my sentence, and I haven't created any structural errors by sticking it in that way. But then, if I do it that way, I don't have to do something here at the end of the sentence. I can end the quote, and it actually ends right here. I can end the quote normally with the period tucked inside the quotation marks. Okay, so that's one way. The second way that you can do it is with a parenthetical citation, which you're very familiar with at this point. That's when you stick the citation at the end of your sentence. And so I said this. And that needs to be capitalized. Okay. She goes on to say that often that twist can be a dark one, suffocating expectation, crushing poverty, or a profound secret that must not get revealed. There, I put that in with a colon. I set that quote up with a colon. I did not have to repeat her name here because I know that I'm going to vary that up. I'm going to stick that citation at the end. Now, with parenthetical citations with APA, it looks a little bit different. You got to use a comma. You're going to use your author's last name with the comma and then the year, and close your parenthetical, your parentheses, and then add your period at the end. Okay, so same concept. Your ending punctuation gets removed from the end of your quote. You open up your parentheses. You drop that in your comma, the year only, and then you close your parentheses and you push the and you end with a period. Okay, so those are the 2 ways that you can. And you're like, well, okay, what if I have an unknown author, or I have an author that's not listed? Then you would use, instead you would use the source. So this came from the Stanford News. I would put Stanford News, comma 2021. Okay, and then that's pretty much it. If you have any specific questions, you can always contact me. I'm here, and I'm pretty responsive. Try to get back to you as quickly as I can. If you have any questions about your formatting, you want me to check something out, don't hesitate to reach out and contact me. And I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with.